Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bree Mesquit, and today I'm going to be demoing a men's brow and nose wax. He is a first timer. He's actually my cousin. I'm going to tell him to be on his best behavior and not be dramatic, but we know how men can be. Anyways, I'll be using Rebel Wax Blue Gummy, which is a gel-based formula. It's my personal favorite and go-to when I'm doing brow waxes. So keep watching and we'll get right into it. Okay, so we got my cousin here, Jake, and this will not be his first brow wax in quite a while, but we're also going to be doing his nose, and this is his first time. So you'll be able to see how I kind of walk my client through that and navigate a first timer. Especially nose, people really work it up in their head that it's going to be super painful, and then they're surprised that it's not, and they're hooked. So really great upgrade to add to any facial waxing services. All right, so let's get started with brows. So I'm going to start with a cleanser. I use Clean Sweep by Relax and Wax. I do have a code with them. It is BREE10. All right, so first start with cleansing. Now, what I can see happens sometimes with newbies, especially, is cleansing directly over the hair. That's fine, but we also want to make sure that we're really cleansing the skin though, where we're actually going to be applying wax. Make sure you go high. I like to take my cotton round and fold it like this when coming underneath the eye, making sure to cleanse all this area. Now with men's brows, you do want to do a consultation and make sure that you're both on the same, well, with anyone's brows really, but make sure you're on the same page on what it is they're looking for. Some men will want them shaped, some will not want them shaped, or want them to not even look like they were waxed, just kind of cleaned up a bit. So for him, what we're going to do is clean up the middle. We'll kind of clean up some of the top part here and then go really conservative on the bottom. I don't even like to wax on the very bottom here. I just like to trim up the sides here so everything looks nice and clean, but they still look natural and not super shaped and feminine. All right, so we cleanse. Now I had a feeling he could be a little bit on the oily side, so I have some powder. Now let me show you. You guys know how I feel about powder if you've been watching my videos for any amount of time, but there are cases when it's needed, and this is one of those cases. So what you're gonna do is sprinkle a little powder over your cotton round and then shake it out. The thing I see too often is way over usage of powder, and we don't want that. I'll even kind of dab on the back of my glove here. Now you can see when I'm wiping the area, you're not really seeing any powder being applied, but it's still working and really helping to absorb any of those excess oils. All right, so that is done. Now nose, there's not really much to do prep wise for nose, so we're good. You do have a couple options though. If you would like to add oil to hit the mustache area, you totally can. What I prefer to do is actually use a body waxing stick and hold that over the hair to act like a little barrier. So I'll show that to you in a second. But if you do opt for using oil as an additional kind of barrier and protectant, you would want to do that now. So it's really important if you guys your goal is speed in the future, then you want to set up good habits from the very beginning to make sure that you're allowing yourself to work as quickly and efficiently as possible. And part of that is prepping everything at one time. All right, so with brows, we trim, we wax, we tweeze. So we're going to trim first. I have my scissors here. You're going to need a spoolie and brow scissors. I like to brush up, and then I don't hold the hairs up because we can accidentally take too much off that way. So just whatever stays up on their own, and then you'll kind of follow the shape of the brow. A little bit goes a long ways, and honestly, a lot of times, even just the trimming itself can make a huge difference. Then I'm gonna brush down. If there's anything that's hanging super low, I'll trim that. There's not much. Now, be really careful in this area. I see people do this and trim all those hairs. Then when you go to brush them back out, you can have this little gap and hole. So we can always trim more, but we can't put it back. So just play it super safe, and then you can always take off more later. All right, same thing, other side, gonna brush up. Now pay attention to my positioning. When I'm trimming this brow, I'm coming to his right shoulder. When I'm trimming this brow, I'm coming to his left shoulder. I'm also using my left hand as a guide and kind of to give myself some stability here. So don't forget that you have two hands. A lot of times I see students forgetting they have that second hand to help them. And positioning for both your client but yourself as well is super important when doing brows. I like to use my spoolie and brush off any of the little hairs that could be left behind on the scissors, so that when we put them in barbicide, we're not adding any hair to the barbicide, or else you need to clean out your entire container. So no debris at all can be in the barbicide. I'm setting those aside in case I need to trim a little bit more later. All right, so we trimmed, now we wax.
Quick interruption to the show. I wanted to make sure that you are aware of my free 6-week hard waxing 101 course that I have put out for waxers to gain confidence in the treatment room, no matter where it is in your waxing career that you are at. You will also receive a certificate of completion once you complete the course. So visit us online, lashwaxoc.com, and you will click the training tab. Now back to the show.
When waxing brows, we're going to be using pointer tool method. If you guys have not yet learned the 6 different types of strips that you need to know, you can either look at the other videos here on my channel or visit my free 6-week course, and I go over everything, every service area, all the strips you need to know. I even cover some business building stuff. I go into even more detail than what you guys see here on my YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. So we're using pointer tool. You want to get it really nice and clean on your stick so that you can be super precise when laying the strip. I'm going to start in the middle and then work to the start on the right brow. All right, and then we are using a gel-based wax. Like I mentioned before, this is Rebel Wax Blue Gummy. I like to build this up a bit just to make sure the removal is good. See how it kind of starts to change colors there a little bit? You want to remove when it's still tacky. I'm going to give that a little bit more time. You can press into the strip like this, and it almost helps it to set up a little bit, and then remove quickly. Now, if you are struggling with a gel-based wax, it can be a couple different things. Laying the strips too thick, or if you're in a really warm treatment room. If you're in a warmer treatment room, I would opt more for our 50-50 blend, which is a cream and gel mix. So it's actually a gel and cream based wax, or you can go for just a straight cream based as well. So if you're running into that issue, please note that. Gel works really, really well in colder treatment rooms, so maybe the winter time, or if you have good AC. It can also be affected by people's body temperatures as well, so keep that in mind. All right, so this is ready. Remove and immediate pressure. So right here, you can see some pinpoint bleeding, totally normal, especially for a first timer and especially for male brows, because it tends to be, it has those thicker roots. I don't know if you guys can see, but all that sheathing there. So each hair actually is connected to a blood vessel, and that's what feeds it oxygen and allows the hair to grow. So for first timers, whether it's brows, underarms, legs, Brazilian, anywhere on the body, you're going to see that pinpoint bleeding. Now it's a good sign that you actually remove the hair from the root, but the last thing that we want to happen is that we don't acknowledge it to our client, and then they go look in the mirror and they see blood and they think that something went wrong. Oftentimes it just purges a little tiny speck, you cleanse it away, and then you won't see any more blood from there. But make sure that you are communicating this with your client and explain it to them. Also, this is why it's so incredibly important that you guys are having your clients wax every 4 to 6 weeks. At the 6-week mark is when that sheathing starts to rebuild, that blood vessel can reconnect, so it helps to strengthen that hair and allow it to continue to grow. So it's in essence almost starting all over again. So if your client's goal is to really thin and soften their hair, then you want to make sure that you're explaining all of that to them and helping them to get on a good consistent schedule and not past that 6-week mark. All right, we did the start of the brow. Now I'm going to focus on the top. So you have 2 different options. You can either do a full strip all the way across. I'm actually going to split this up into 2 because I'm not really looking to shape. I'm just really looking to clean up the area here. Now we are a little warmer today, so this wax is taking a little bit longer to set. So instead of laying 1 at a time, I'm actually going to lay 2 strips at a time. Still using pointer tool. So for this one, I stood at the head of the treatment table. Now for his left brow, I'm standing at his right shoulder and pushing away from me. So if you guys are still practicing and getting comfortable with your technique, make sure that you're practicing these different positionings and both pulling strips towards you, pushing strips away from you, laying strips going sideways. You need to be comfortable with all different angles there. And this is something very easy to practice even on a piece of paper. What I would do is put a piece of paper at the head of the treatment table and practice working around the treatment table. All right, go lift, quick pull, and immediate pressure. It's really important too that you're using your left hand to pull the skin taut. It's going to help you get a better removal. All right, now moving on. Pattern still super important. You guys have heard me say that in all my videos when it comes to waxing. Patterns is what's going to help you stay on track and to start getting faster as you perfect your technique as well. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. So I did the start there first, and we did the body of the brow. Now we're going to be working on the above the tail. I like to get that little lift. It just makes removal easier. So my first pass, I'm using decent pressure because that's really pushing the wax down to the base of the hair. And then when you see me coming back up and building this strip, that's for removal purposes. It's just helping to thicken up this strip a bit. So when I go to remove, it's not going to break on me. If it's too thin, it can definitely tend to break. All right, we're removing when still tacky, not wet, but tacky. And a quick pull through. Making sure that we're pulling all the way through the strip, not just right to the end. That's when you can tend to lift the skin. I always like to put immediate pressure. All right, now for the bottom portion, I'm not gonna do the full bottom like you guys would normally see me do, but I do wanna clean up these tails because they're a little bit long. So what you do is you go from the crease of the nostril to the outer corner of the eye, and that gives me a visual of what it is that I wanna remove, which is just gonna be right here. Now you have a couple options. You can grab a brow pencil and make a little mark here. I'm gonna be able to just eye this. I know exactly where I wanna go, but when in doubt, just go ahead and mark it. Nothing wrong with that, and you can cleanse it away easily after the service. All right, and then over here, just taking that little tail off right there as well. If you have touched skin, if you're using your stick to map out the brows, which is great, that's what I love to do. This cannot go into the pot though. That would be considered double dipping. So it does need to get tossed and a new stick needs to be grabbed. All right, make sure also you are stirring your pot. So a mistake I see often with brows is, or a struggle, I should say. When you're brand new, getting the wax from the pot to your client quickly enough without it then starting to set up on your stick, and then when you go to apply, it starts like rolling off the skin and not properly adhering. That's because when you're newer, you're gonna be moving a little bit slower. So to try to offset that, you can turn your pot up just a little bit higher than you normally would have it so that it helps once it starts setting on your stick. It's going to be at a good usable temperature still by the time you get it to your client. If that is something you're not comfortable with, then you can also put your wax pot a little bit closer to the head of the treatment table. Maybe you have a little rolling cart that you can get it really nice and close so it breaks down that timing from getting it from the pot to your client. So side note, if that's something that you're struggling with when you go to apply, plus making sure we're constantly stirring our pot as well. All right, still doing pointer tool. Now I'm not getting it very far down on my stick because I'm not making a long strip. If you're making longer strips, you need to get the wax a little bit deeper onto your stick. Making sure we're following the direction of the hair growth. I'm going to thicken this one up. Thinner the hair, thinner the strip, thicker the hair, thicker the strip. Always keep that in mind. Get a little lift. And then we'll apply the other side as well. Don't be afraid to move around. So I'm standing here when I'm applying, but then it's a little bit more comfortable for me to come over here to get my little lift. So sometimes the position you're in for application can vary from the position you're in for removal, right? Using my left hand to hold taut, really quick pull, immediate pressure, making sure you're staying parallel with the skin. And I hold pressure on this one a little bit longer because it can be a little bit of a spicier area for your client. All right, same thing on this side. So I'm staying parallel, so I'm going in this direction when I'm pulling. I'm not pulling up, okay? And then immediate pressure. All right, brows are done. I'm going to apply some of Relaxin Wax. This is actually one of their newer products called Just Calm Down. Super soothing. It's also really, really great to have on hand if you have anyone experiencing either folliculitis, which it would be more pseudo folliculitis if you're seeing it during or after the treatment. True folliculitis shows up a day or two later. Anyways, or a histamine reaction, or in general, they're just a little bit more sensitive. It's really, really calming and soothing. It's actually a topical antihistamine. So I love having this product on hand. I'm going to apply it fairly heavy, and that will start to soak in as we move on to our nose wax. All right, moving on to nose. So this is his first time having his nose waxed. And are you nervous?
Yeah, 100%. A little nervous.
So we're gonna do one side at a time. For any newbies, do not be doing both sides. If they're regular, ask permission first, because people can tend to get a little claustrophobic. You want to make sure you're reminding them to breathe through their mouth. We're going to go ahead and do one side at a time. Grab a body waxing stick, come up like this so you're really covering any of the mustache hair. And then Jake, I'm going to have you hold both ends here of the stick, just like that. Perfect. So then make sure everything's in good positioning, and then we will go ahead and grab our wax. So you definitely can use a gel-based wax, but you need to be really careful and on it when it comes to the timing of the removal. If you're new, I would not recommend using a gel-based wax for a nose wax. It takes a little bit longer to set because it's in an enclosed area. Now, another thing with the gel-based wax is you need to let it sit a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind as well. A little bit goes a long ways. We don't want to grab too much wax. If you're newer, use a cream and gel 50-50 or a cream based for the nose. Right, so we're going to be using what's called a nose pop, which is one of the 6 types of strips you guys need to know. So I just get a little bit towards the tip there. I do like it to be a little bit on the cooler side, so I grabbed right from the top of the pot there. All right, I like to place my left hand here on the bridge. Now we're not inserting up into the nasal cavity. We're just getting these hairs that superficially kind of poke out. I like to twist a little bit and then squeeze. So there's maybe like, you can't even say an inch. I'd say 1/4 of an inch of that stick is actually in his nose. So we're not going up into the nasal cavity. Nose hairs are actually really important. They're a filtration system for us. So if you take too much off, then they can experience sneezing and just irritation. You can rip this mucous membrane on the inside of the nose here. So this is really just for cosmetic purposes. Now, timing of removal. You want it to still be tacky and moldable, but not wet. So this is still a little bit on the wetter side, so we're just going to allow that to sit. Now, once it's kind of started to set, you can release the stick, and it'll be totally fine. And you can see how that wax is now sitting on the stick here. No mustache hairs are lost in the making of this demo. Gonna allow it to sit a little bit longer because you have to think the wax here is going to be setting quicker than the wax that's right on the inner rim because there's no air getting to that wax. So we just want to let it sit a little bit longer. But if you let it sit too long, it can be really irritating to the skin. So you really have to time it correctly. All right, this is perfect. Left hand here on the forehead, hold the bridge of the nose, grab this, and we pull quickly. And immediate pressure. Dude.
That was not bad.
It wasn't bad, huh?
I thought that was going to hurt.
But look at that hair.
That's pretty good.
That's what I've been staring at for a couple weeks now. All right, so you can reuse the same stick. If it's stuck, go ahead, toss it, grab a new body waxing stick. Okay, so there's a little wax actually stuck right here. So let me show you what we do in that case. So I'm just gonna I grabbed a new stick, first of all. I'm gonna get a little wax just on one side. We don't need to create a full nose pop. I'm going to kind of dab this on my glove so it's not super wet when we're inserting that. All right, and then I'm gonna take the side that has the wax and press it up against that and use decent pressure. And then we'll just let it sit. So first thing, don't panic. Okay. Secondly, don't ignore it and then let your client go home like that. The reason why that happened is, first of all, this is his first time, so the hairs are thick and deeply rooted, and then that wax inside did not set as long as the wax that was a little bit lower. So this is another reason why, honestly, I really prefer to use a cream and gel 50-50 blend for nose rather than just a gel on its own. So it just didn't have enough time to set. All right, so then same method, remove, and then we should be good. Yep. Now for the other side, so we got our body waxing stick, same thing, if you can hold that. All right, and then nose pop again. I want to grab a little cooler wax, so I like to kind of pull from the top of my pot there. And you don't want it to be really drippy at all, so I'll kind of like let it chill and set on my stick here for a second. I'm gonna get just that inner rim, do a couple twists, and then I like to squeeze with the stick facing up and down like this. Otherwise, you're squeezing the nose into the sides of the stick, and that can be uncomfortable. All right, you can let go if you want. And we'll just hold that and let it set. I'd say a good like 30-35 seconds before this is gonna be ready to pull. All right, knowing that it took a little bit longer on the other side, I'm just giving a little extra time. If you have clients that have allergies or anything, especially like actively are experiencing allergies, do not wax their nose. It's just not a good idea. Definitely can add to it. So good question to ask. Also, during drier months, so it could be during the winter time, or it depends really where it is you're located. If you notice that someone is a little bit drier, do not do a nose wax. Or also if they just got over being sick and they're like blowing their nose and you can see it's a little dry and raw and irritated, do not wax over that either. All right, this is ready. Palm, brace, and immediate pull and immediate pressure. Boom. All right, there's not really much aftercare for nose either. I don't really prep. I don't do much aftercare. So we're just pretty much good to go. All right, I already did the aftercare for brows. So making sure also you're letting your clients know how to properly care for their skin after the wax. No sweating for 24 hours. So really it's best to opt out of mountain biking for Jake or the gym or any just like heat and friction. Always think heat and friction. Now, if you're going to have some clients who are like, I can't adhere to that. I'm hitting the trails later today. I'm going to be sweating, especially wearing helmets and stuff. Some cold water, washing your face can help to kind of prevent that a little bit. Never foolproof, but it can help. So you can instruct your client to wash with cold water. If you're doing another area of the body, just running cool water can help. Aftercare is important too. So you guys can consider retailing something like No Trauma Mama for the face, Just Calm Down, or even an ingrown hair serum is going to be really great to have any first-time clients go home with as well. Not necessarily when doing facial waxing, but any other waxing on the body. All right, thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and then I'll see you guys back next Thursday.